Yo, 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 what's going on? It's your boy Kim. Are you interested in becoming a sponsor for the Fly Young Intellectual podcast? Would you like us to advertise your business on this platform? If interested, email us at info@flyyoungintellectual.com. That's info@flyyoungintellectual.com. We're waiting to hear from you. Peace. What's going on, people? It's your boy Kim, and welcome back to another episode of the Flying Intellectual podcast. And I'm super excited because today's guest is one of my bucket list guests. Actually, I was telling her I've been wanted to interview her since I kind of got hip to her from her adulting series, and we'll get into that and how that show came about. But she's a producer, she's a director, screenwriter. Nod if you're with me. Yep. I don't want to. I like to make sure I give everybody every single thing that they deserve. So she's a head honcho right now, working her way up in the TV world. She's with Love and Hip Hop. She has done. I think she said she did Jerry Springer. Random. This is we have to get into this. Steve Wilkos and them boys. Like what? That's prime time daytime TV. So, but if you don't know who we're talking about, and if you can't see her at this point by now, her name is KayraJay. Let's give her a round of applause for being here.
Woo!
I'm gonna try doing my sound effects out tonight. Welcome, man. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you so much for that warm introduction.
No,
I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. We work hard. I believe I'm not them people who are like, if you're Dr. such and such, we must call you Kayra just because they know you. Like, nah, Dr. Kayra. You know, it's you worked for it.
You know, I might add that to the list.
Yeah.
Kayra, I like that.
Yeah, man. Yeah. How are you doing? You were kind of out of the pandemic, but still in it. And there's a lot going on, wars and
wars
and rumors of wars and pandemics, and how are you navigating this? How is this affecting TV world and the production world?
I mean, it's a lot. I think that when 2020 happened, I was very grateful, to be honest, because I was working really hard in 2019 and 2018 before that, just trying to break into the industry. And so by 2020, I was burnt out, and the the collective push to just stay inside and relax was I needed that. I know it was fucked up because
it was in the midst of chaos. Yeah, but at the same time, it was a necessary reset that we all needed.
Yeah, I was I was going too hard. I needed a second. And it really gave me a chance to reevaluate just some things in my life, both personally, professionally, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, all of the leaves. I was just out here figuring it out. And then as it related to production, that's one thing about this industry is that pandemic or no pandemic is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
It is literally an ever evolving landscape. So it was just one of those things where I was like, ooh, I got to learn how to adjust, which isn't that hard for me as a Libra. Air sign energy, we just
Scales,
very
balanced.
fluid. Yes, very balanced.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly. But I had to figure out, some new tricks and new tips to keep myself afloat. One of which has just been to tending to my own garden, making sure my own world, that I first and foremost am okay before I pour into other people.
Yeah, putting you first.
I really had to learn that. So that's what I've been doing. I've been doing me and putting me first in every aspect of my life.
No, that's awesome. I mean, it takes so long to find that balance, but I feel like the younger and younger we get these days, the generation is just understanding it off rip. Nah, if I have a headache and I don't feel too well today, I might try and call out because, what's the point of pushing myself if I'm not going to be my best self? And, I can't give that at the workplace. So understanding that is definitely crucial. and yeah, trying to find that balanced way. Obviously we're always like encouraged to do it without the sleep and go overtime and all the all these isms and go hard and no sleep, team no sleep,
Mhm.
and then you find yourself like needing some sleep one way or the other. Why
Yeah,
not just
you actually need sleep.
yeah,
It's imperative.
yeah, yeah.
It's that grind mentality. And I was like living in New York too. So it was just kind of
Hmm.
like,
The city
you
that never
know,
sleeps.
boots on the ground.
Hmm.
Yeah, like just really going for it. And then, the pandemic happened and it was like, girl, you need to chill out.
Hmm.
Like, please just relax. And so that's what I've been doing. The to-do lists get shorter. I've been tending to like other parts of my life that are not work related,
Yeah, yeah.
um, and that's been really beneficial for me.
Awesome, super awesome. So let's go down the chronological order of things. So you're from St. Croix,
Mhm.
but you moved away from like an early age. Like talk about just like the upbringing, the kind of you leaving, seeing the whole other side of the world, and your influence of your mom and all of that.
Yeah, so I was born on St. Croix, and then when I was younger, my mom and my dad they moved away to Connecticut when I was like 1, and then I was 4, we moved to Maryland, and then when I was 10, me, my mom, and my sister moved back to St. Croix, and then I was living in St. Croix from when I was 10 through high school. I went to Complex and graduated from there, and yeah, while I was in complex, I thought I wanted to study psychology. I was taking AP Psych, and I was like, I could listen to people's problems and consult people and like be there for people. I mean, like do it all the time for
Yeah,
my
right,
friends.
right.
And I
Just
told my
it's free,
mom,
right? Like
yeah, right.
just
I'm
like
like, oh, I could get paid for this.
yeah, yeah,
Like,
and you're
why
good.
not? Yeah, or so I thought.
Right, right.
I told my mom, and she was like, "Yo, you do not like to listen. You need to go do something else." And I was like, "Girl, what do you mean?
Nothing
Like,
up,
I be
nothing up.
listening."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she read me like a fucking book. I was like, "Okay, cool." She was like, "Why don't you do journalism or something? Like, you like to write." And I was like, "Oh, I didn't even know like that was a career I could
Right,
do.
like
Like,
a
it just
thing.
never." Yeah, like it
Mhm.
just wasn't in front of me. I didn't like grow up like taking, videos and things like that. Like I grew up with a bunch of different hobbies. Like I did theater. I just did like random stuff,
Yeah,
but I didn't think that I could pursue a creative career for work.
yeah.
Just because I didn't really have any examples of that in front of me. And so when she said it, I was like, oh, okay, like, you might be onto something, girl. So I ended up
Not to
going to the
cut you off,
University of
but that's a gem you just dropped there. Like because you saw a lack of representation and you didn't have like an
Mhm.
active thing in front of you that said like, oh, to be creative is like a legitimate also a job or career option. You couldn't
Yeah,
see it, so you
that
couldn't
can pay your
imagine it and dream
bills.
it for yourself. That's wild.
Exactly, because I had never really been on like set and like in the Virgin Islands it's not like people are just shooting movies
Right,
everywhere,
right,
like
right.
things like that. Like I think the most at the time production really was from what I could see was the news.
Yeah, yeah.
That's and
That's
like
smart
even
and
now if
stuff.
I like go out,
Hmm.
yeah, like even now when I go out with my camera, like people will be like, use the news and I'm like, no, I'm shooting a documentary or like,
Yeah,
no, I'm just filming, so the perception is like news only and not necessarily like
yeah.
production
Entertainment,
for
yeah.
art.
Production, yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Even though there has been outlets like that before, I just feel like I was not personally like privy to it.
Yeah, yeah.
So that led to me going to the University of New Haven and I was studying communications. I was pursuing a Bachelor of Arts in Digital Media.
Hmm.
And then I had like this production fundamentals class where we were like playing with cameras and all the equipment. We were in the studio and stuff. And I
Hmm.
was like, oh, I kind of like learning a skill. So I took on a Bachelor of Science in TV and video production. And I got my degrees in both of them. And then along the way, I was like producing content on campus. I created like 2 shows on campus, the news, the first ever news program that's still running today,
Nice.
going strong.
Sick.
Love that.
Yeah.
And then another political science talk show that had like got nominated for a student Emmy. So I was like, oh, like I'm in
Let's
this.
go.
And um Yeah, and so that led to me getting my internship with Jerry Springer's Teen Vocals, like you said, at NBC
Crazy.
Universal.
That's crazy.
That was like one of my first internships. It
What
was
was that like? 'Cause
definitely
of
an
course,
experience.
from the outside looking in, we see all this chaos, and we know that the chaos has to be produced, right? So,
Hmm.
like from you just watching it on TV, and then you actually being behind the scenes, and like seeing what level of production is necessary to generate that kind of chaos. How like mind blown were you, or maybe did you go in and it was exactly what you thought? Like how was that process?
I think it was like, I don't know. I have a high tolerance for chaos. I don't know. So it was pretty chill for me. And then honestly, quite frankly, my role, I was a digital production intern.
Yeah.
So I basically had to show up on the set and like take pictures of what was going on, like take pictures of Jerry or like take videos and then like create digital content, like
Okay.
social media
Okay.
content.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in as far as the production went, I was able to shadow and like see stuff, but my role was more digital and I was in like my own
Right.
world
Right. Just trying to
as
make
I
it,
was
trying to
doing
do
it.
everything right. Like yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
I mean, and it was just cool. I was just happy to be there.
Of course.
Honestly, I was just like, oh my gosh, I finally have an internship. I didn't get that internship until my senior year of college.
Mhm.
So, mind you, like this whole time, I'm thinking like, oh my
You're
God, like what am I
behind.
gonna do?
Hmm.
I'm behind.
Hmm.
I haven't gotten any internships, no nothing. Like I made these shows on campus, but it's not getting me no jobs. Like what's going
Yeah.
on? So I'm like thinking all this work is in vain. And then I remember the day that I got it too. I was telling, because I was also an RA on campus.
Hmm.
I was telling my boss of the RAs, I was like, yeah, girl, if I don't get an internship, I'm gonna just have to get another job, like, and just see what happens.
Hmm.
Like, go work back because I was working at Urban Outfitters before that. So it's like I might have to go back to Urban Outfitters or
Hmm.
something. Like, I had like quit working retail so that I could focus on like getting an internship,
Right.
getting a job,
Right.
focused on my grades and all that, and like then it wasn't happening. So when it did happen, I was like, literally, I said that. I walked out the library and I got a phone call from NBC Universal, like, hey, Kayra, your resume's on our desk for, Springer, Wilkos, or Maury. And so, come on in and we'll see what happens.
Great.
And that's what happened. Um, and then after that, I had an internship with Lionsgate in France during the Cannes Film Festival. That was such another one of those like moments, like it just happened. Like I didn't even know that this would have happened. Um,
First of all,
yeah, like
these
I
are
got
these are some major names. Let me make sure that I put my round of applause in there. These are some. She's just dropping your names.
clap,
Just
clap.
on the way, by the way. By the way, Lionsgate.
Yeah,
But no, I'm enjoying the journey.
exactly. Yes, it was, I love reliving it because at the time, like when I tell you, I was like crying in bed,
Right.
like, oh my God, I'm
Like
not gonna
I'm
get
not
a
gonna make
job.
it.
Like, I'm gonna have to,
I'm gonna have to go back home.
yeah, I'm
I'm a
like,
failure. Like
you understand? Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, like, not that moving back home makes you a failure, but like,
nah,
I
but that
had
was like
like
the
big
perception.
dreams.
That was the perception that they sold to us.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
don't. I remember when I moved away. People were like, don't end back up here or something like that kind of like
Hmm.
what? Like don't come back home?
Literally
Yeah.
that. Like, stay up there and make something of
Listen,
yourself. And
yeah,
I'm just like, I'm trying, but
no,
they
I'm
won't
doing
hire
my
me. Oh my
best.
God. Yeah,
I'm doing my best
yeah.
for
And I
sure.
just felt very like defeated because
Yeah,
I'm like, I just spent like these 4 years, like, with a 3.5 GPA straight through, like
did the right thing.
multiple, like extra yeah, like staying on the
The
straight
straight
and
and
narrow and
narrow.
nobody's
Yeah,
hiring me.
and then here I am.
I had so many rejection emails, like
Mm,
from because I applied everywhere. Like it wasn't even a lack of like me trying. Like I had rejection emails from almost every media company that probably existed. So I was just like, what am I doing wrong?
yeah.
So um Lionsgate happened, like literally just it just fell into my lap. And it was such a blessed experience. I got to go out there for 2.5 weeks and support executives in the international sales and distribution arm um for the company and like really experience a film festival before COVID that of that magnitude that's like so big.
BC. Like I don't remember what BC is.
Right, BC.
Before
Literally
COVID, what?
BC, like
Oh, no masks. Like we're all just
no
mingling.
mask,
Yeah,
just vibes.
that's right.
Everybody's like turned. We like crowded in the club. Like it wasn't no problem. So
Crazy.
yeah, I was out here doing that, and then I had an internship lined up with this company called Gizmodo Media Group, which is now called Go Media, for the summer. And I was their video intern working on mostly their site called Jezebel, and then they have another site called The Root, and then a bunch of other sites like
Mhm.
Jalopnik, Splinter, Deadspin, all these other like platforms. So I would like help them out with different videos and whatnot. But I primarily worked for Jezebel and The Root, where I was like interviewing celebrities and making videos of it. And yeah, I mean that was cool. I learned a lot about production in that role. Like you literally are doing everything yourself.
Mhm.
Like I'm the
Mhm.
videographer, I'm booking people, I'm editing it, I'm making graphics. Like I was like, I'm feeling a little exploited, but I'm
Mhm.
learning a lot.
Right, right.
So that was my introduction to like the industry because they hired me full time. And I was freelancing there as an associate producer following the internship. So I had moved to New York, got my first apartment. I was living with three other women in Washington Heights, just working. Like I would be working there, and then after work I would do a bunch of like random freelance gigs. Like if someone needed a PA or if someone just needed a videographer or photographer for stuff, I was getting to the money. And I just had like that hustle mentality of like
Yeah.
don't stop, like literally just like
Work
going
ethic,
hard while
hungry, yeah.
also like maintaining a social life, trying to date people.
Yeah.
Like I was on 10.
Yeah.
um and but then so I didn't want to be interviewing celebrities. I wanted to make content. Like I wanted to make television.
Mhm.
That's what I sought out to do. I was like, I'm interviewing people, but I want to be working on the thing that I'm interviewing them about.
Mhm.
So how do I get there?
Mhm.
So I was networking with a bunch of people, trying to get my foot in the door in terms of like production, and TV production, and it just wasn't working out. Like,
Yeah.
like you have to have like a connect for the most part. Like people have to know who you are, know what you could do, like have credits of some sort. I'm like, I'm gonna get the credits if y'all don't let me on the set.
Right, right, right.
So
Or when
that is
people try and hire you for something, they say you should have like 6 years experience, and it's like, so I can't develop the
I just
experience here.
graduated a month ago.
Right, right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, how was that supposed to happen?
Uh,
But didn't let that discourage me.
right.
I eventually at some point acted on one of my own ideas. So I had met one of my co-creators in France. A mutual friend had connected us, and we both had internships in France. She was interning with Annapurna, which is like a film production company, and then I was with Lionsgate. So we met up in France, and then she lived in New York. So we met back up in New York and reconnected, and she hit me and we were talking, and she was like, what are you working on? And at the time, I wasn't working on any like passion projects because I have never really actually done one. I feel like up until this moment, I had my blog that I was working on, or I would do like mini projects, but nothing like of this magnitude.
Mhm.
Because in college, I just, I had college, I'd work, at internships, I was an RA. Like, I was
Mhm.
like, I don't have time for this.
Yeah.
Um, and so I was really excited to have something that was like my own. And I had all these ideas of things that I wanted to do, but I didn't want to seem like I wasn't working. So I told her, I was like, oh, I got this idea, like working on this idea for a show called Adulting, da da da. Like, whole time it was literally just like bullet points in my
Yeah,
journal.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, yeah.
I was like, but now it's like I gotta get to work. People are asking me what I'm working
Yeah,
on,
yeah,
goddamn.
yeah.
So um she was really into the pitch when I told her about it, and she was like, I'd love to work with you on it and this, that, and the third. So I was like, okay, now I have to actually do some work. Like I have to stop going out at happy hour and I have to sit down and do some work.
Yeah.
So I did. I wrote the scripts, and me and her were working on it, securing locations, like figuring everything
And
out.
this is still in New York, right?
And then yeah,
Okay.
this is still in New York. And then I met my third co-creator, Malik. We met how did we meet? We met when I was working at Jezebel. I was interviewing Lynn Whitfield, and Malik was assisting her. And so we just both kind of like saw something in each other. And then she left her card on the table, and I was like, oh, I wanted to be her friend. I'm happy she left the card.
Yeah.
So followed her on Instagram, and then invited her to a lunch. we're like talking. I'm like, yeah, I'm working on this web series with my friend Paulette. Like, we're doing this thing. And she was like, oh, I had an idea for a web series. It's like, well, what's your web series? Like, Adulting. What's your web series? Adulting While Black. And I was like,
Okay,
okay,
okay.
so now we have to work together.
Yeah, that aligned
So
nicely.
we did.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did. So we came together, the three of us, and put this show together. We started with the pilot, which, if anybody ever watches the series, Me versus the Whites was the first episode ever shot. So that was shot like in my apartment. I was the actor, like my friend Nick, who was the DP, he was in town before going back to Chicago. So everything was just sort of like perfect, and we were able to like get a lot of kinks out. Adultin is a scripted and unscripted show. So there's a scripted portion that's like a film, and then there's the unscripted where we interview like real adults
Mhm.
about that. So for the unscripted, a lot of my friends from college came down to New York, and they stepped in for me, and I was like, I love you guys. We ultimately crowdfunded $12,000 for the show, and we were able to produce 6 episodes. And we threw a bunch of parties. We had like all sorts of things going on. Like, it was great.
Mhm.
And it was a moment. It definitely shaped my career, I feel like, because it made me confident in my capabilities
Mhm.
of whether or not I work in this industry, like, I know I
Yeah,
can
I
make
could
a show.
do. I could
Like,
do
and
that.
I know
Yeah.
that I want to make TV.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I don't need anyone to validate that for me.
Yeah.
Like, we did it.
Yeah. With
But
little
along the
resource.
way, yeah, with like literally, like, we all just brought our own resources together. Like, you got a camera, I got a camera. Like, then the people who worked on the show went off, like actors, everybody. They just like went off and became super successful too.
Yeah.
Like, they're in like Walmart commercials. They have shows of their own. They're doing their thing. So I'm like, this is great. It
Yeah.
was just a bunch of good vibes. It was very much so a magical moment for, I think, all parties involved. um Along the way, in real life, like, our careers were also elevating. So I ended up getting hired as the development assistant at MTV and VH1, where I was supporting the VP of development as well as an executive producer and showrunner. Development, for anybody that doesn't know, is basically the think tank of any network or production company, where you come up with ideas for that. Like, you come up with ideas for shows, the film, whatever network production company you're working for. Development is where you create the ideas. And I
Mhm.
was like, what a perfect place for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was assisting them and working on shows, like unscripted shows, with MTV and VH1 mostly. And life, I got inducted into the corporate America world, which is very different from when I was like freelancing.
Mhm.
um and life got hard, like, just got like a little bit more serious, like a little bit more, like, I don't have as much time for my passions, which is where the burnout was coming in, because I was really trying to do it all. Like, I'm at work from like 10 to 7, and then going to meetings at 7:30
Yeah.
with Paulette and Malik, and then leaving home and like editing videos at like 10 o'clock at night. So I was definitely like just working myself a lot at that time.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, 2020 happened and sort of shut things down. So I was able to work from home. My job transitioned to like remote work. I ended up getting promoted to associate producer, which is where the love and hip hop of it all came up. So when I became AP, I started working across the love and hip hop franchise, as well as a few other VH1 shows under one of my bosses. Um, and my team and I, my co-creators, we ended up splitting up and like doing our own thing and going in our own direction. But at the end of the day, like, we were like a, a jumping off point, I feel like, of our careers, to be able to have that,
Yeah.
and then step off into our own directions and grow into our own way.
And that's love in itself, because I mean, to be selfish about that is not going to behoove anyone either. So it's like, if we all have these gifts, and we made these moments, right? The Adulting series, we made a full body of work, whether it's a season, half a season, it doesn't matter. We should be able to allow each other
Hmm.
to like blossom, and just know, like, who knows, maybe later in life it'll come back together, or maybe that was it for like that
Yeah.
cult, that group of people. But that doesn't mean the main mission comes to an end, right?
Exactly. The future is fluid. So right now I've just been in an independent space. I got my own LLC, and I've been trying to work on that, like trying to be big boss
Yeah,
K,
yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah,
trying to like make sure my everything is in order, like trademarking and copywriting and like having, what do I want to do
yeah.
next?
Protecting that intellectual
Which for me has
property.
been, yeah, yeah. Just getting back on like I said, like resetting,
Yeah,
because COVID shook some stuff up. So it was like, what do I actually want to do? Like, do I actually want to make TV? Like, what am I doing? Like, I do this every day now. So it was kind of like getting, like, am I built for this?
yeah, yeah. Because that's the thing.
And
Like when you do the business side and you like fully get into something that you're passionate about, sometimes it rips that joy away, and sometimes it shows you like, was I supposed to
Mhm.
like really do this full time or whatever? It's a balance, man,
Right.
for sure.
The business definitely takes the fun out of stuff, I will say. But you got to do it. Like,
Have
I
to.
think I have such an appreciation for the business now. Like, right now, I really don't try to do business without contracts in place,
Yeah,
deals, like just, written communication. Like,
yeah,
if we're communicating, hit me on the email. You feel me? Because it's just like there are boundaries that have to be set between art and business.
yeah.
And
The
I
sooner,
think
the
that
sooner
when
you
you're
do it,
starting out,
the sooner you do it, the
the
better.
better.
Because the longer you wait,
Yep.
it gets muddled, and then like to really
Hmm.
put what you need into like the contract and stuff on the back end, it's almost yeah.
Yeah, it's messy.
Hmm.
It's messy. And like I think that being in corporate America definitely, instilled that in me in a subconscious way. Like I didn't even really think about it, but I'm like, oh, this is how I'm moving because this is how I move at work. And
Yeah,
like
the
that
structure.
is the industry. This is the
You get
industry. Like this is
programmed.
like the
I mean,
biggest
yeah. Once you
freaking
go, it's
Viacom.
programming.
Like,
So it's like if you see the structure and
yeah.
you in this system, you're gonna adapt certain aspects of it. Good or bad.
Yeah. And it was just like this is the standard, and so I want to live up to this standard all the
Yeah,
time. And like prior to that, like when you're doing art, you're an artist, you be vibing, you're like, let's just go shoot, let's just
yeah,
go do
yeah,
this, like
yeah.
and then it's really, so I've been reading this book from Questlove for like ever now, but it's called
Oh,
The Creative
yeah,
Quest, and he
yeah.
has this
I
chapter.
just started
You
it.
saw it?
I just started
Ooh,
it. Yeah, yeah, like literally 2 days
well,
ago.
not to like spoil
Yeah, but good,
anything,
you
but
good.
he has this chapter.
Hmm.
He has a chapter that speaks on the intersection of art and commerce. And that chapter really spoke to me because I was like, damn, like that's real important. Like once money is involved, like, like having to pay people, like getting things, getting paid for the things that you do, getting
Hmm.
paid for your art, like all that other stuff, like you want to make sure that like you're good.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like it's not just art at that point.
No,
Now it's business.
no.
So you, like you said, you have to do that from jump
Yeah,
on anything. And so I'm just like trying to keep that mindset for literally what it could be, a photo shoot, it could be just like whatever,
yeah,
like it should be papered, it should be, invoice me, like you know
yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying, like
No,
I
I
don't
had to
care if
learn
we
the hard
20
way a
years
lot.
old.
Yeah, even like 2021 for me was a lot of that. I just had to a lot of stuff that I knew I should have done with the business on the paper side of things. I like let fester and linger a little too long. I lost money because of it.
Hmm.
And like now, like I had to, and I'm glad, of course, because it's good to see it. Maybe it's a little better to see it up front than like later on when like you think you're moving and grooving and then you have this f up. So I'm glad I figured it out, but
Hmm.
at the same time, like yeah, protect yourself, protect your intellectual property at all times,
Yep.
and do the
Yeah.
necessary.
The sooner the better. That's my advice for everybody. Like, don't ever be like, I'm too young to have a deal. Like, no, go on Rocket Lawyer, like,
There's
get a
so
contract.
many things
Like,
out here. Templates. There's like, even
yes,
look at the career templates of some other things and structure yours according. There's ways, man.
yeah,
There's ways.
it's important. It's very important. And you have to be super diligent about that, especially if you want to scale and like get bigger. Like, people be having big dreams. Oh, they want to make $1 million, but it's like, where's that $1 million being deposited to? Your personal bank account?
Right.
Or like, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, you have to have systems in place in order to receive the level of success that you actually want. And
And
so
understand
2020,
the hierarchy of the legality of the world we live in too, like America. You know
yeah.
how to figure out how to maximize
Mhm.
the taxes and stuff like that. Like that's the only way you're
Yep.
gonna succeed is if you understand that stuff. To be honest.
Yeah, if you're out here being super naive, like I'm gonna just make 10 bands off of my art. It's like, okay, but like, like you might run into some shit if
Yeah,
you don't got
yeah,
your business structure set up, you don't got your bank account set up, you don't got an EIN number, like
mhm,
you're trying to do taxes and they're like, you gotta file as an S corp. You're like, what's that? Like, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Like you gotta really, in order to elevate and really scale and profit from art, the business got to be in place. And so that's where I'm at now. I'm happy that I was able to vibe out and work with incredible people who we were able to work together and we didn't have to get into that
yeah,
part of it. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like it wasn't messy,
yeah,
but it was like, as I look back and all that, I was like, oh, I want to be better protected before I do anything moving
yeah,
forward, just with anybody. Like, my next client could be who I work for right now. You know what I'm saying? Like it could just be that. And
yeah.
it's like I don't want to be in a position where I'm being taken advantage of or where I didn't know what to do because I do know what to do.
Mhm,
Like,
mhm.
it's like you said, it's like, oh, I have these feelings of like I should be doing this and then you play yourself.
Yeah,
And it's like don't play yourself.
yeah,
Like look out for yourself. It's not a bad thing to ask someone for a deal or a contract. It's not a bad thing to send an NDA to someone.
yeah,
It's you're literally protecting your work.
yeah.
And that's what matters. So the
Absolutely.
art can only be fun if the business is set up.
Y'all, another gem, another gem, another gem.
These claps.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Keep dropping gems. So let me reset the podcast. Once again, we have Miss KayraJay on the Flying Intellectual podcast. She's a director, producer, screenwriter. She um, occupies the visual content space. She now resides in Atlanta and works for Love and Hip Hop
Mhm.
after working her way from St. Croix through what's that? That was we're up in like Massachusetts and all of that. So that's the like yeah,
Connecticut.
Connecticut. Okay, okay, Connecticut, and then making her way through New York. So all of these things and these stops added to her perspective and her her visual eye, and now she's done it for full time. And obviously, being a black woman in these spaces and as young as you are, what are like some of the pushbacks or even some of the pros, I guess, that you would say that like navigating these spaces and being I guess one of the few black faces and black women faces in those spaces.
That's such an interesting question. Because honestly, for me, I've been super blessed. Like my bosses in this industry, post like college have all been black women. Like when I was
Amazing.
working at Jezebel, my senior producer, yeah, my senior producer was a black woman and she was just, always very like stern, like just got her point across. It
Yeah,
wasn't no like her trying to dance
yeah,
in the
passive
space. Like,
aggressiveness or
she
like yeah, you have to like
yeah, like she
determine
was
what.
very clear.
Hmm.
Yeah, she didn't give a shit. She was very clear, very direct. So I was always privy to that. And like my boss now, I work with black women leaders and I see them really put their foot down, like don't take shit from nobody, like communicate their ideas clearly. Like even when they're delegating things to me, it's very much I'm not about to treat you like you five,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you were grown, like it's like
Like
this
you
is the task
belong
at
here,
hand.
so let me respect you by like talking to you like an adult or talking to you like I'm a professional in
Yeah.
this space because you are. Hmm.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's really fascinating and like beautiful for me because it's like I don't feel like I have to dim my light. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because it's like even when I'm like communicating with people, if I'm in a leadership position, I don't feel like I have to be nicey. Like, this is the point.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
like
yeah.
this is what I gotta say.
Yeah,
Like if I'm
for
doing
the
business with
greater
you, I'm gonna
the
just
greater
be
picture of the production, like we don't have time to
yeah.
waste time on like dancing around
Trying
this
to be
when
nice.
there's a
Like,
bigger picture.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's just like, what's up with this? What's up? Like, like being very clear, being very direct. And like, I love working in a space where people have thick skin. Like, like like, if I submit something, it's like it needs some work. It's like these are the notes.
Mhm,
Like this is
mhm.
what it takes to be better
Yeah,
and like the best.
yeah,
So yeah, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful to be uplifted by Black women. I am constantly uplifting other Black women because we don't get uplifted enough out here in these streets. And
yeah,
so that's my experience. I've seen Black women be their full, complete boss lady selves in plenty of rooms, and it's taught me how to also do that and to be unapologetic about
yeah,
it. Like I don't need to, if I want to wear a wig tomorrow, I'm gonna wear that wig.
yeah.
Like, if I want to shave my hair off the next day, like I'm gonna do that. Like if I want to wear super long lashes, if I want my nails done, if I
Yeah,
whatever I want to do to express
express
myself,
yourself,
like I
yeah.
don't need to, yeah, like I don't need to confine or conform into like a box.
Yeah,
I feel like I'm able to be my full self and y'all are gonna take it or leave it.
mhm.
And that's just it.
Yeah, and you provide, you're gonna come to work, you're gonna do the job at a higher level, but you're gonna
Yep.
whatever it takes for you to express yourself in that, you're gonna do that by being secure within who you are. So that's
Right.
beautiful.
And then back to what we were saying earlier in terms of the self-care of it all. Now I'm learning how to be able to be more upfront about that with myself and then with others. Like, oof, today
Not
is
here
a
for it.
slow day for
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
Yeah, like I'm gonna need a second, and not trying to like push through it all the
yeah.
time because that's how I used to be. I used to just be pushing
That's how
through,
we're programmed,
and I
right?
was tired, man.
Mhm.
Yeah, exactly. It is. And you don't want to come across like incapable or like you don't know what you're doing and like all this other stuff. And I just had to like release that, and be like, I know what I'm capable of. I
Mhm.
know what I know how to do. So if I need a second, it's because I actually need a
Yeah.
second. And like I have to honor that within myself. And other people are just gonna have to respect that as well.
Yeah, the boundaries, man. We have to teach people how to treat
Hmm.
us, no matter how much.
We have to teach ourselves how to treat us. I think that a lot of people don't even know themselves enough. Like,
Hold on, hold on,
like
hold on, hold.
for
One
real.
more for
Like
the
you
road.
really have to sit with yourself
We have
and
to
like
teach us how to treat us. You're right. Well, go ahead
mhm.
and explain.
A lot
Yeah.
of people are not self-aware and like not even like paying attention to themselves, and like that's what was happening to me. I really thought I was good. Like I thought I was capable of doing like whatever, whenever, and like physically I was right, but it was affecting so many other things.
Hmm.
And like back to 2020 when I had that time to like really sit and reflect and like pay attention, I was like, "Oh my god, like I have no boundaries and it is affecting me.
Hmm.
Like I'm consistently pouring into other people, but what have I done for
And
myself today?
and then when you don't
I
set that
barely ate."
boundary, then you only mad at yourself after, which is like the worst as well. Because like you can't
Right.
display. Well, you could, but that's gaslighting. People do
And
that, but
projecting.
like,
And people do that.
hmm, hmm,
You start projecting that anger that you like you're mad at
hmm,
yourself because you didn't say no, or like you did something that you weren't comfortable with doing,
hmm,
or whatever, you violated yourself,
hmm,
and then now you're mad at other people, and other people are just going to what you set up,
hmm.
like like you set the tone and people are going to treat you like that. So it is so important to reflect and like spend time with yourself and be like, okay, this is what I have the capacity for
Yeah.
today, this quarter, this month. Like, you can't do it all in one day. Like you could have I got mad ideas, like books full of goals. You
Hmm.
know what I'm saying? And I had to sit with myself and be like, I'm not rushing to create any of this until my business is fully set
Yeah.
up. Like,
Yeah.
I need, I want contracts from my lawyer. I wanted it to be trademarked up. Like, I need that shit approved, signed, sealed, delivered. I could work on these ideas in silence and
Hmm.
underground, but I don't feel the need to like
I always have to
pop out
convince
with
other
my
people that I
project.
have shit going on. Yeah.
Yeah, all y'all need to know is that I'm good.
Yeah.
Like that's it. And like that's really it. It's just like when the time is right, and that's different for everybody, but you have to be good. It shouldn't even be no competition with nobody but yourself. Like
Hmm.
that overworking yourself, that like trying to prove something, all of that is so detrimental when in reality You should be focused on like pouring into yourself, making sure that you, the person, are like good first and foremost in all of the ways,
Mhm.
mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually, whatever.
Mhm.
And then like your art will reflect that. And then your art that is for profit will reflect that too.
Mhm.
You know, like the thing that you're putting your heart and soul in, you have to be able to put your heart into something for it to work out. And so if you don't got nothing to give, then it's not giving. So
Yeah.
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 So
Yeah.
that's some stuff I've been learning, and like dealing with, I've been taking the pressure off of myself of like having to have a million things going on.
We were a little late this time, but well,
I can't, but
yeah,
never, like I'm into it.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, and just focus. I just been focused on working. When I got promoted to associate producer, that was like my first time working on an actual show.
Mhm.
Like development, you're like working on a bunch of different shows. Like you're working on different shows. Some shows never see the light of day.
That's what I'm
Some
about to
shows
say.
do.
Yeah. So
So it's a very different.
yeah, yeah. It's different when you're like
Yeah,
actively
it's
on
a
something that's
different
coming out.
setup.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, but yeah, exactly. So that was my first time like doing that. And this is something that I've been manifesting since college. I'm like, I want to work on a show, and I had to make sure that I knew how to do my job. Like, I was like, I don't need to be doing 10 million things at once. I need to focus on this.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to mess this up. Like, I want to be good at my job. I want to be paying attention to what's going on around me so I can, pick up on other skills and traits and like, oh, I thought I wanted to do this. Maybe I want to do
Yeah.
that. Like,
Provide value.
like just being,
Yeah. Find different ways to provide value. Yeah.
yeah,
Hmm.
exactly, exactly. And so I was just focused on that. And, I love my team. I love working with other Black people. I love sharing Black stories. Everybody always got a lot to say about love and hip hop, and it's just kind of like, eh, I love
At
it.
the
Like
core
I
of the
love
brand,
that.
it's true. They do get a negative connotation, and I think it's a lot of it is from a misogynistic point of view, if we're being honest. But
Mhm.
at the core of the brand, it's a storytelling brand that you obviously, reality. There's some bloviating and like sensationalism that goes into some of it, but at the core of it, love and hip hop is like storytelling, like what I'm saying, and it's people's lives, and
Yeah.
everybody can relate to something that happens in love and hip hop. So that's why it's still existing. How many seasons now?
Yeah, that's why it's a hit
Yeah,
show.
exactly.
Like it's just like
How
it's
many
still here
seasons?
for a
They're
reason.
like what?
Um, yeah, I mean Atlanta is on season 10 and New York I think is on 11. Like
Yeah,
New
New
York
York is
was
the
the
OG.
first one and
Hmm.
and so that's 11 years, over 11 years of being on cable television. Like
People hate on
that's a
Lady
big
Mona,
deal.
but Mona been doing her thing for a long time.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And just the people in front of the camera as well, like is what other show
Yeah,
do you get like this many stories in a way that like whether you can relate to their actual lives, the stories at their core is like the point.
yeah.
And like everybody deserves space. Like everybody deserves a space to tell their story. Like what makes this story better than that story?
Hmm.
Like what makes this person's story more important than that person's story?
Yeah.
So I appreciate the space to be able to learn and grow and work with other people of color
Hmm.
and, like I said, Black women in charge and who pour into me, like who teach me things every single day about creativity as well as business, as well as just navigating these waters. So it's really only up from here.
Yeah, of course.
I cannot wait to see what's next. And from myself and my team, just both like in my personal work and my professional work, because it's really up and it's stuck.
It's up and it's stuck. And I think what I'm really realizing, like even as I work my way more into those spaces of like production and such, is that there's like always something to learn. So it's one of those careers that
Yes.
like, there's always a way you can like improve, and then every certain amount of years something new is going to come up. Somebody's going to try and do something new. Somebody's going to like try and shoot something in a different style or like whatever that is, and that's going to influence like a whole new generation. So whoever is like already submerged in that, they're gonna just always be learning if they want to be relevant, at least, right? Over a long period of
Hmm.
time. So I'm sure that
Yep. Like I said, the landscape is always changing.
mhm,
So you have to be paying attention, staying like ahead of the curve and like, just like learning
mhm.
and evolving and like taking what you learned and passing it on to the next generation.
Yeah. Do you think like moving to Atlanta was like critical for where you are now in terms of obviously being?
Oh my gosh,
Go ahead.
yes.
Yeah.
Just because like I did not know that I would ever move to Atlanta. Like that was like if the pandemic didn't happen, I don't think that like that would have
Oh
happened.
wow.
Um, but I really wanted to live alone. Like I was like, I need like space to like I'm a big personality. I have a lot of energy
Yeah.
and I was like, I just need like my own space to really like get everything out. Like, um, and Atlanta was one of those places where I could afford to do
Hmm.
that. And then, we shoot down here and all this other stuff. So it was just like kind of like one of those transitions that I was almost fighting it. Like I was like, why would I move there? Like I'm a city girl. Like
Yeah.
what am I doing? Like coming. I had never been to Atlanta. Like as an adult, I only went to Atlanta like once when I was 10.
Hmm.
So I came here like to apartment hunt, and that was like my only time here as an adult. And then I just moved, and I'm like, oh my god, like I'm here.
Yeah.
But I have a great support system here. Like my best friends live here, and just like I'm reconnecting with a lot more people from the Virgin Islands down here,
Hmm.
like people from high school, which is something I never really did as much in New York. So it just feels like I went to a jam the other day. I was like, what? I haven't been to a jam in so
Yeah.
long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like what?
That's crazy.
So I don't yeah, I definitely I'm appreciating this part of my life and the things that I'm able to like learn about myself
Hmm.
here because it's definitely I didn't even know this was gonna happen, Like if you had asked me 2 years ago, would I move to Atlanta? I'd be like, fuck no.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I'm staying in New York. I'm a Brooklyn babe.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
next place I'm moving is
Right.
LA,
Right. Right.
But
That's so funny because the LA narrative has kind of like fizzled out in a lot of ways because Atlanta is kind of like the Hollywood of the South. So you know,
yeah, yeah, and LA gets that reputation of being fake and like being, like,
mhm,
superficial. Um, but I still love LA. Like I love being out in LA. Like I love the vibe. I do like that space. But I think life needed me to be a little bit more fulfilled before going to La La Land. Like
yeah,
I had to like become more of myself. So like I said, I could be more confident in my skills and my abilities and like just who I am before I get swept up
yeah,
in the mix. And I've always been pretty down to earth. Like I've been shooting celebrities, and that's when people start noticing that you good at it. They're like, "Oh, okay, right." And I'm
yeah,
like, "Y'all, I've been doing this, but okay." Like you see someone now it's validated, cool. But I had to learn way early on, like, don't even get swept up in
validation,
in
yeah,
that. Like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, like that's not why I do this. Like I do this because I enjoy storytelling. I enjoy sharing stories from people that look like me and voices that don't get to be heard,
mhm,
and I'm like good at it.
mhm, and it's important for us to tell our own stories on our own platforms, to control our own
Yes.
narratives. That's like a very big part of why I started the podcast, and I super
Mhm.
believe in like, you know, we shouldn't have to like die before our stories are told, and then two, we shouldn't
Oop.
have to like go sell our story to the highest bidder either.
That part and the beauty of like where I'm at is that I work with like execs all the time, and so it's kind of like being at that level, like being near that level all the time, it's like, oh, like I can see myself being an exec. And like I actually think that that's in the cards. Like, like that's what's gonna happen at
Mhm.
this point. And so it's kind of like there aren't I never even thought about it. Like, like I said, that representation, like you just don't really see it. It's just like, oh, I just want to make art and all these other things. But there's so many levels
Yeah,
to like
to
getting
get
your
a
story out
totem
there,
pole,
getting
yeah.
it greenlit, getting it
Mhm.
yeah. And it's like to see that, like to see that space, to be privy to it, it's like, oh, like I could be, responsible for something like this, like for making sure that these stories are told. Like there's people who create stories, but then like they have to be put somewhere, and there has to be someone that says yes, and it's like that could be
Yeah,
me. Like,
and
oh shit.
it should be produced at the same level. Just because it's black produced, it shouldn't be a fall off either. So that's where people like you come in,
Oh yeah, big
because
budget.
yeah, because I feel like whenever you see something, a certain, certain, not now, maybe now, but there was a time when you would hear black produced or whatever, the quality would feel like that. It would feel significantly like a drop off,
Hmm.
because a lot of the times those productions aren't getting the type of resource and the type of funding. So they do it, you know how we do.
Right.
We're some, niggas gonna do what we gonna do. We're gonna make it shake. It's gonna be good,
Hmm.
but we might just do it in like a way where, like, we nigger rigging it and making it ours until we get what we want. And so
Yeah, and I mean, shout out to even that. Like that's people who are
yeah,
persistent no
it's a
matter
gift.
what. Like,
Yeah,
like the fact that anything can get like that it got made is such a big deal.
facts.
Like to complete a project in and of itself
That's
is such a
the
big
win,
deal. I
right?
don't think anybody
That's the win. It's
realizes.
not about the
Yeah, it's like,
metrics. It's not about
you
the
know,
metrics or whatever. Like, to take an idea and make
the fact that you did it.
and manifest it to something real, work it and make it become something real. That's the gift. That's the gift. The journey through
Yeah.
that too is like, every time you experience those
Yep.
experiences, that's a gift. So, like, a lot of times
Yeah. So really and truly, shout out to those people who did it, like beyond, like, the limitations of maybe having a small budget or not having certain things. Like they still
shout out to
went on and yes, shout out to those people, because you got to push through, like for real. And like that's what creates, the representation. You be like, oh wow, like look at this all black cast, like
Mhm.
I want to do something like this. And it's like, okay, it may not be giving Game of Thrones, but like I'm into it, like I
Yeah.
like this. And it's like, all right, and it just keeps going. And then you see people like Mara Bracakil. Then you see people like Issa Rae. Then you see people like Ava DuVernay. Then you see
On the
people
rhyme and
like
yeah.
Shonda.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's just like, this is so like amazing
Hmm.
to see Courtney Kemp. And just like even in the Virgin Islands, there's KayraJay,
Yeah.
there's Janisha John, there's all sorts of like people in our own like space who push through and like make content,
Mhm.
like, or just tell stories, do what they got to do in this business, um irregardless of like obstacles.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of that should be like inspiring, at least inspiring for me. I'm like, all right girl, you got to keep it going, you
Mhm.
better get up, you better
Mhm.
go do some, because this is what you want to do.
Yeah.
But also, like I said, taking your time and doing it right, like doing it the right
Fact.
way that works best for you.
Yeah. Yeah. And supporting one another. One person going through that door doesn't make your journey any less slower. You can feel comfortable with, like,
Period.
let it watching a Kayra, watching a Kyra, watching a Janisha, watching all these people like walk through those doors, and just know that everything that they do opens the door a little more for somebody behind. And because a lot of time we compete with our friends. I don't think it's like
Hmm.
a deliberate. I don't think it's like something where people like are cognizant of, but I think it's like something that's like instilled in us, throughout, just especially growing up. Sometimes your parents would make reference to a certain friend who's doing such and such, and making you feel like, oh, I gotta compete with them in school, or I'm not doing as well, stuff like that. So it's a lot of like toxic things we were taught, so that we had to unlearn a lot of those stuff and make and know that together we're gonna win. Together we'll win more than like,
Period.
yeah, than separate. So
It's all about community. And like we said about the whole like being mad at yourself and like maybe projecting, I think like that's really what it is. It's like, oh, you see something, you want something, and so now you're projecting like
like
something
Kara
that you
did it,
can't
like
really
take her in
describe.
where Kara was, just because she took the step, and it's like, yeah,
Yeah, and it's not even like
nah,
that, and it don't even gotta be like
nah,
that. We really only have each other. And like I said before, I've only like black women have uplifted me. And I make that my commitment to like uplift others. And when I do feel like like negative emotions and stuff,
hmm
that's when it's time to pull back
hmm
and be like, ooh, where'd that come from, Kay?
Yeah.
Why you feeling like that? What's up with that? Like, be real with, like, I think we ignore that
Yeah.
feeling and then it manifests and it projects in nasty ways. But when you're self-aware and you're able to like pinpoint the root of certain
Mhm.
problems, then you can see like the bigger picture. Like, we should not be beefing. It's really no reason to do that because working together is great, but maybe sometimes you need to work on yourself
Mhm.
and like you have to actually do the work. You can't be mad because she's doing the work and you're not doing the work. Like, do the work, you
Mhm.
know. And then once you do that and you're feeling confident in your own thing, then you can collaborate with others, right? And like you can feel more open to stuff like that. So it doesn't even have to be no nastiness. It could just be like, maybe I just need to take a step back
Yeah.
and pour into me for a second.
Yeah.
Once I do that, I'll be more open to work with others. And then, you need other people.
Yeah.
Like you just said earlier, like you need your producer here to do different things. You can't do
Yeah.
it
All by
all on your
itself.
own. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, like
Mhm.
there's so many, and that's something that I've been learning
Me too.
along the way, especially yeah, because it's hard. It's like, oh my God, I have all these things that I want to do. And like you think that only you can do this one thing.
Mhm.
And then it's like you have to learn how to like chill and like delegate and then that's where the contracts and stuff come into place because it's like, yo, this my role, this your
Yeah.
role. Everybody know what
Yeah.
they
Yeah.
doing here.
We don't have
It's
so we don't have to waste
very
time on
clear.
explaining and like managing that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like being confused, like who's this? No, like this is what this is. This is my role on it. This is your role on it. This what you here to
Make it
do.
clear. Yeah.
And boom, like now we work.
Yeah.
Yes. And getting that like framework clear off rip is important. Knowing yourself enough to know when some projects require just you or if you need assistance is important.
Mhm.
And just not really seeing any of it as a competition. I mean, like there is Stars, HBO Max, there is Showtime, VH1, MT, all these different cable networks. Imagine if we only had just one.
Mhm.
Like we would have been tight. Like the fact that we have all of these options is a result of multiple people fulfilling, similar dreams and journeys. And then there's space for everyone. Like honestly, we barely scratched the surface in terms of like creating the type of content and things that we want to see, creating the art that we want to see. And it's like art is forever.
Yeah.
Like make your art. Like
Yeah.
it's okay. Like if someone else is doing it too, because they will never, ever, 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 ever be you.
Yeah.
And like
That's a
that's just
superpower.
something to like
Yeah.
really
That's the thing.
that's
We're
your
all individuals.
superpower.
Yeah. Yeah. There's
Yeah.
only
And
one
and
perspective.
you have to get clear on like yourself and like why you do something, right? Because sometimes, like I said, like some people can get caught up in the glitz and the glamour and the like, oh, it's Hollywood, like and it's just like if that's why you're doing it, then you're not gonna be fulfilled by the work,
Yeah.
and then you won't be doing the work, and then you're gonna be mad when someone else is doing the work
Yeah.
and all that
Because
other
you didn't
stuff.
do
So
the
it's
self
like
work.
just
Yeah. It's a self work.
yeah,
It's
and
a
you
self
have
work.
to
Yeah. And then
it's the
it's a
self
self
work, like
work.
it's so imperative
Yeah.
for growth, period. Like outside of art and entertainment, it's just like you have to be working on yourself
Yeah.
to like grow
Yeah.
and evolve. Like you can't just ignore the fucked up shit and expect like things to happen.
But
It's like this is blocking your blessing.
and here's the thing too, like not to get too deep, but I guess we're here. At the end of the day, as black people especially, right? Like we have been programmed to say that our trauma is what makes us make the best work, right? Like in the creative spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of like musicians and artists is like, they tap into that toxicity and that all that stuff to make the best art because that's where you feel the most like natural pain. Everything like, the movie feels
Mm-hmm.
gritty, it feels authentic, whatever that looks like. Um, so I think a lot of times we get addicted to using that because we kind of figure out how to monetize that and then we forget to do the self work to know that oh nah, this can like progressively get worse as well. Like this is because I'm still a real individual. I'm
Yeah.
not just art. I'm an artist, and I
Mm-hmm.
create art, but like I'm a human being that has to still live with these demons, so to speak.
Yeah, no, that's so real. There is that narrative that art comes from pain and like pain breeds the best art and all this other stuff. And I mean, like, I guess that's kind of
Yeah,
true,
right.
but at the end of the day, like you said, like you are able to heal and make art. Like you're gonna constantly have some shit that like that challenges you,
Yeah,
right? And like takes you down. Like but you can't stay down. Like you have to get up. Like you can't just be in a bad place for the sake of your art.
Right.
I mean, I guess you can if you want
I
to, like
guess.
really and truly do whatever
Yeah,
you
of
want.
course, of
But
course.
me, I can't. Like I'm like, when I'm like 2021, for example, I was feeling very like I just like was not feeling like myself. Like, like I was feeling a lot of different things and I stayed home for 6 months. I was in St. Croix, like I was working from home and I was in St. Croix. I was like, I just need to be home. I need to go with my mother. Like I
Mhm.
just need to I need to go back to square one
Yeah,
because like something is wrong with me. Like I could not figure it out. Like and that level of awareness is great because I was like, at least I know. I don't need to know what it is, but like it's something.
yeah, yeah.
And I was kind of like soul searching and like going through it. And prior to that moment, right, like 2018, I had the best year of my life. I got these internships. I got, I'm going to France. I was on that wave for like 2018 through 2020, and then it came and shook me, and I didn't really like, something brought me down and I had to like build myself back up. Like it didn't stay up forever. Like it's gonna come down. So whether you heal from something today, there is going to be something that challenges you
Yeah, that's a
tomorrow.
fact. Yeah,
So don't even worry. The pain is gonna come, child. Like you can put that new pain into your art,
yeah,
but you do have to like heal, like actually,
absolutely. Yeah.
and channel that pain, later. Like it doesn't, I don't know, I feel like you got to be able to grow, and by restricting yourself to being, you know like having your pain dictate your life is like, I don't know, it's not really, not how I want to
Nah,
live.
nah, I
I'll
don't want to
say.
live that way either. And it's a slippery slope, and it can become dark.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So you don't want,
Yeah, it
yeah,
can.
you don't want to like go down that slippery slope. But yeah, it just kind of like manifests even worse things when you're not doing that
Yeah, and
work.
you have to do things, you have to be comfortable with doing things that you may not have ever done to heal. So whether that's therapy, whether you got to start taking morning walks,
Mhm.
journaling, like whatever it is, like you got to try different stuff. Like what used to work for me don't work no more. I used to paint when I was sad. Like I would just start painting things and like be in my own space with like incense and my candle and I'm just painting and I'm like, "Oh my God, I feel better."
Yeah,
And then, you're older or I'm older and I'm like, I don't feel like painting. Like, I don't even want to do that.
yeah.
Like, I'm like, what do I do? Like, I'm feeling upset and I don't know what to do. And I had to like, figure it out. Like, what would make me feel better actually at this stage in my life?
Mhm.
Like, what feels good? And that's why I said like I like living alone because now I can just do weird shit like cartwheels in the middle of the day
Yeah,
and nobody can say
you're right.
nothing. And I'm like, oh, that made me feel
Right, right,
better.
right, right, right. I don't have to like feel judged or like I have to explain myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Exactly. It's that part. I'm like, I never really care about the feeling of judgment, but I'm like, I really just don't feel like explaining
yeah, yeah,
myself.
yeah. That's
Like,
real.
why am I eating ice cream at 3 a.m.? Like, no questions, please.
Yeah.
I'm just doing it.
Me no hablo English. What a
Right.
little
No
baby do the
hablo
other day.
inglés,
Me
okay?
no hablo English.
Exactly. Literally that. It's like I no longer know how to speak.
Right.
Please don't ask me why I'm doing weird things. Like this is what I needed to do today.
Yeah,
Okay. Like that's what made me feel better.
yeah,
And like, yeah, it could be little things like that, like sometimes you just have to sit with yourself and be like, you know what? I think I need to just like eat a whole can of whipped cream right
yeah,
now. Like,
yeah.
whatever. I'm
Just to
just gonna
get
eat some
through.
peanut butter on a spoon.
Yeah, just
Hmm,
figure
just to
him
get
out.
through it.
Like, yeah,
Exactly.
I get it. I get it. Sure.
Yep. It's like, oh, that felt good. I like
Yeah.
that. Feel a little better. Now we could take on
Right,
Tuesday.
right,
Great.
right. Man, thanks,
Yeah.
thanks for all the gems, Kira. This was an amazing conversation um, of your journey and like just learning more about you and like how you navigate these spaces. Tell the people where they can find you at, where they can follow you, what to look out for, whatever you want to plug. You got it.
Yes. So you could follow me on the socials, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube at KayraJay, KayraJay. And you can check out Adultin series. That's Adultin No G on YouTube. And check out, season 1. And up next, I've been working on a documentary called Cruise, which is kind of very fluid. I don't want to talk too much on it
You
right
don't
now
have
because
to.
it is like a work in progress,
Okay.
but it's one of those things that's like teaching me a lot as well in terms of projects not being done in the time frame that you may have wanted them to be,
Okay.
and taking your time with where you're at, because sometimes things take time. So working
FYI
on this
exclusive.
documentary.
FYI exclusive. So I'll just thank you for the
Yes.
exclusive. We'll take it. We'll take it. We'll be looking out for it.
Yes, stay tuned for that
Yeah.
one. That one is whether it takes 10 months or 10
Yeah.
years, it's gonna happen
Yeah.
because I said I was gonna do it.
Yeah. That's
But
all.
I'm taking my time with it to make sure that I actually, like I'm good. Like I said, if I'm gonna leave y'all with anything, make sure your business affairs are in order. Protect yourself, protect your IP, and like collaborate with each other, network, be nice, be nice. It's okay to be nice. Communicate with people. Don't project negative shit. Heal truly, and let's make great shit.
Hey, teach the people. I love that quote. Awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Kayra, for pulling up, man, and giving some inspiration, informing the people, inspiring the people. Good luck and blessings on everything that you got coming up. Keep trucking away at it. You're already great, but we're looking forward to anything that KayraJay puts out.
Thank you so much. And thank you so much for having
You're
me. I
welcome.
really appreciate
You're
it.
welcome, man. Thanks for tuning into the Flying Intellectual Podcast. Until next time, peace. Hey, intellectuals. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Flying Intellectual Podcast. If you enjoy this podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend to tell a friend. Also, join our email list at www.flyyoungintellectual.com, where you can also hire our brand development and management services and book a consultation. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Fly Young Intellectual, where we inform, inspire, and interact. We'll see you soon. Thanks.